What is it about so many old politicians that keep them from walking away before their minds drift away? Apparently, it's because they still get elected, despite clearly diminished minds. Considering who gets elected to most offices in America, one thing is clear. We get the leaders we deserve, which doesn't say much about our mental capacity either. And if you think I'm talking about your favorite politician and party, then you're probably right. It happens on both sides of the aisle. Regardless, one thing demonstrated by aging incumbents is that too many years in political office can, and usually will, erode one's core principles, if there were ever any to start with. Almost all have evolved in office as the power and ego rush wore away at the thinking that defined them at the start of their political journeys. They prove the old adage that anyone who is not anchored to unchanging principles will eventually drift out with the tide. That adage applies to religion as well as politics, as shown in the lives of the kings of Judah. Of all the ones who reigned for decades, few remained faithful to God to the very end. We've been looking at Asa, who remained faithful for a long time, but lost faith at the end. After 35 years of religious restoration and service to Jehovah, 2 Chronicles 16 reveals how in the 36th year of his reign, Asa turned to political alliances for help instead of turning to God. God graciously sent a prophet to call the king back to him, but it didn't work. No longer willing to be persuaded by God, and knowing he couldn't persuade the prophet to agree with his decision, the king exercised his authority and forced the prophet to shut up and submit by throwing him in jail. Even when he got ill, the king refused to turn back to God for help. He had cast off his anchor and was drifting out with the tide. Following Christ is never a one-and-done event. It begins with a submissive heart that hears his word and chooses to obey in baptism, but that choosing must be repeated daily, not the baptism, of course. We must reset our anchor in heaven every day. If we don't, it will eventually come loose and we will drift with the tide. Since our souls last forever, let's remain faithful to God to the end instead of letting our faith drift away from its anchor like an old politician from his principles. We must fight through to the end and finish our race so we will receive the crown of life waiting for those who love him. 2 Timothy 4 verses 7 and 8. Thank you for watching Morning Minutes in the Bible. Until next time, this is James McClenney hoping you have a great day.